Hey, what's up everybody? Ryan Pitts here, and today we're going to color correct and color grade some GoPro Hero 8 footage. I just recently got this, so let's check out the footage. Alright, so we are in the computer here, and the first thing I want to mention is I did shoot this in the flattest profile that I possibly could. GoPro Hero 8, I'm not sure about the versions before, but it has the option to shoot flat or GoPro color, and I went with flat because it does give you the best flexibility one color correcting or color grading. I did go ahead and import everything already. I shot it in 4K at 60 frames per second. This is a 1080p timeline, and it's actually at 30 frames per second, so I could slow this down 2 times if I wanted to. As you can tell, the footage I think right away looks fantastic. Like I said, it is flat, but we're gonna make some adjustments to it to make it look better. First thing I noticed right away is this is what, for color correcting, this is kind of like what I call, it is a waveform vector, but I kind of look at it as the histogram. It's just a little bit different way of looking at it, and I think it's the easiest way to look at it, and I've always got it on Luma. You could go RGB Parade, which I know a lot of people edit on, but I really like Luma because I feel like it gives you that histogram feel, kind of from left to right, and then also the colors as well. I'm going to be color grading this in Magic Bullet Suite from Red Giant. And the first thing I'm going to do is add the Colorista. And the reason I use Red Giant's Colorista is because I just feel like it's so much more powerful for video editing than, let's say, Final Cut Pros. So that's what I'm going to use today. And the reason I say that is the first thing I want to look at is the blacks. And like I said, this looks like a bright image. Everything is above this like kind of 50% line, what I call it. And I want to bring that down just a little bit to bring those blacks down. And already you can see it gets a little bit more contrasty as we go. And like I said, I pulled that down a lot. As you could tell, I could already see a big difference in footage. So let's go to the midtones next. I'm going to pull those down just a little bit too. Highlights, since it's underwater, I kind of noticed when I edited underwater footage, there's not really like highlights, because once you go from this beginning shot, you can see everything looks really kind of blown out. It is kind of flat, so it makes it easy to touch up later. But as soon as I went underwater, it's like boom, your highlights were gone, which I think makes it real easy for color correcting. So if I just move the highlights a little bit, I can adjust those, but I'm actually going to leave those roughly right where they're at. And already you could tell this flattens out just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go into Magic Bullet Looks. I'm going to drag that on here, open that up. And now the first thing I'm going to do is, you have the tools over here. These are all the tools I use. I love Magic Bullet Looks. It's what I do for all my kind of color grading, and I just think it's really easy to use. When I was playing with this the other day, the first thing I used was actually this Mojo, and don't ask me why, but then all of a sudden that just seemed like it really popped out at me, and that's what I wanted to use. Except I felt like I wanted to be a little bit more punchy, which seems a little bit crazy, but I do. So I'm going to turn that up just a little bit. In this Mojo, okay, you can kind of see how if I go from left to right, you can see it gives it a little bit more. I'm going to leave that probably roughly right where it's at. You know, tint, you can play with the tint, stuff like that. I'm going to leave that the same as well. Bleach, fade, I'm not going to touch either one of those. Bleach does give it a little bit more kind of saturation, but I'm going to leave that as well. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I went over to the hue and saturation. And even though it looks kind of real saturated right now, I'm going to give this just a touch more, and I'm going to go to like 105. Okay. I'm going to hit OK. This is going to pull back up. Okay. And it's already in here. As you could tell, if I turn this effect off, you're going to see this, our kind of histogram, our waveform vector over here kind of flatten out, and it makes it much better already. So I think this looks pretty darn good, and this is just real simple color correcting and color grading, but to really go from this flat image to this is spectacular. I'm actually going to pull these down a little bit. I think the highlights actually are blown out a little bit too much here in where the sun kind of peeks through. Those little hot spots down here in the left, obviously you can see them higher up here. This blue, though, back here looks fantastic, and you can see it right here on that waveform. So I'm going to pull those highlights down just a little bit. We're going to see where we can get them. And then maybe even the midtones a little bit more. Maybe the blacks, the shadows a little bit more as well. I don't want to go too far because later in the video you can kind of see we get up here, and this is real dark in here, okay? This is a very, very nice trout. If you can see it come out right there. Very, very pretty. But as far as that goes, that's simple color correcting, and I think it turned out really fantastic for something that's real quick and easy to use, and I think turned out really well. So I think the colors look fantastic. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't. Appreciate it, and have a great day.